Good morning. My name is Sherry Senes, and I am Deputy Mayor. In my capacity, I would like to welcome everyone to Selwyn and to the village of Lakefield. We are honored that you chose our township as the location for your historic announcement. In Selwyn, as in other rural parts of our province, a large number of residents and businesses don't have good internet, and there are large gaps. So we're looking forward to hearing from our esteemed guests today. It gives me great pleasure to introduce and to meet our Deputy Prime Minister for Canada in person, and she serves as our Minister of Finance as well. I also want to take the opportunity to thank you for leading Canada's united response to the COVID-19 pandemic. I would ask the Honourable Chrystia Freeland to come to the podium.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Sherry, for that kind introduction. It is really, really great to be here. And I have to say how nice it is that we're doing this announcement in one of my favorite places in the world, a library. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we're gathered on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe people. And I'm so happy to be joined by my wonderful colleague, Maryam Monsef, the Minister for Women and Gender Equality and Rural Economic Development, by Kinga Surma, Ontario's Minister of Infrastructure, Dave Smith, Ontario's Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources, Forestry, and Indigenous Affairs, and by Andy Mitchell, the Mayor of Selwyn. Access to high-quality, high-speed internet is essential. COVID has brought that 21st century reality into sharper focus than ever. Look, we all know that the COVID pandemic has forced so many of us to stay at home, to stay away from in-person school and work, to be apart from our family, our friends, the people we love. This past year of living and working and studying virtually has, of course, increased our dependence on high-speed internet. Students, children have needed it for online school, something I saw in my own house. So many of us have needed it to work remotely. Small businesses have needed it to take their businesses digital, selling their products in online stores or providing their services over the internet. Reliable high-speed internet is absolutely essential infrastructure for the 21st century. For rural and remote communities that don't have access to that, including communities here in Ontario, the pandemic has made life very, very difficult. And I know that you're worried about being left behind as the Canadian economy comes roaring back. I'm here today to assure you that our government will not let that happen. We have an economic recovery plan that is about creating jobs and growth in communities everywhere in Canada. All Canadians and all Canadian businesses, wherever they are in our amazing country, deserve high-quality, high-speed internet so they can fully participate in the economy, in the life of our country. Our government has a goal of ensuring that 98% of our country will have high-speed internet by 2026 and 100% by 2030. And today, we are making a big investment to accomplish precisely that. Je suis tellement heureuse d'annoncer que le gouvernement du Canada et de l'Ontario, en collaboration avec la Banque de l'infrastructure du Canada, ont conclu un partenariat historique qui permettra d'offrir le service Internet haute vitesse à près de 280 000 ménages des régions rurales de l'Ontario, dans près de 900 communautés à travers la province d'ici la fin de 2025. Cela signifie que presque la moitié des ménages qui n'ont présentement pas une connexion à large bande vont en avoir une. Il s'agit d'un effort pan-canadien qui a été rendu possible grâce à un investissement fédéral provincial égal totalisant 1,2 milliard de dollars. De plus, la Banque de l'infrastructure du Canada évalue les possibilités de fournir un financement supplémentaire, projet par projet. I am so delighted to announce that the governments of Canada and Ontario, in collaboration with the Canada Infrastructure Bank, have entered into a historic partnership that will bring high-speed internet to nearly 280,000 rural Ontario households in nearly 900 communities across the province by the end of 2025. This means that nearly half of all households without broadband are now on track to be connected. This is a truly Team Canada effort that has been made possible by an equal federal-provincial investment totaling $1.2 billion. In addition, the Canada Infrastructure Bank is assessing opportunities to provide further financing on a project-by-project basis. Whether Canadians live in big cities or small communities, broadband is central to our lives. I'm also pleased to announce that through the new Canada Community Building Fund, formerly known as the Gas Tax Fund, the federal government has provided Ontario municipalities with over $850 million for this fiscal year, along with a top-up of more than $816 million. This total investment of $1.6 billion is double what Ontario communities received through this transfer last year and will support infrastructure projects in municipalities across the province. The beautiful township of Selwyn, where we are today, will be receiving over $1 million through this funding. Je suis également heureuse d'annoncer que, par l'entremise de nouveaux fonds pour le développement des collectivités du Canada, le gouvernement fédéral a versé à l'Ontario plus de 850 millions de dollars pour la présente année fiscale, ainsi qu'un supplément totalisant plus de 816 millions de dollars. Ce soutien d'1,6 milliard de dollars double ce que les communautés ontariennes ont reçu l'an dernier par l'entremise de ce transfert et appuiera des projets d'infrastructure à travers la province dans les municipalités. These two big announcements that we are here to make today are about helping Ontario communities to recover from the COVID recession, to grow, to come roaring back, and to create great local jobs here. And I'm really, really delighted to be able to be here to make these announcements. And now I would like to hand over the podium to my colleague, Maryam Monsef, who has worked so hard, both as minister and as a devoted constituency MP, to get this done. So thank you very much, and over to you, Maryam.
Hello, bonjour, Anin, salam alaikum. Thank you for this. Just one more reminder of how much our world has changed over the last 500 plus days. I am thrilled to be here with our finance minister, with our deputy prime minister, here in a library on Mississauga and Anishinaabeg territory to recognize the hard work of so many who have worked hard to make the case for why high-speed internet is an essential service. I'll begin my remarks with gratitude, give you a quick progress report on where we are with connectivity in our communities, and speak about next steps. I'm grateful to the Honorable Andy Mitchell, the Mayor for Selwyn, and his council, including Deputy Mayor Senes, for the work they've done during COVID to keep their township afloat and to lead by example. Mayor Mitchell has also been the chair of the local public health here in our region, and we are better off because of him. Also here with us are Minister Surma and MPP Dave Smith. Minister Surma came into this role and picked up right where Laurie Scott left off, and she and her team worked very quickly to cross the T's and dot the I's so that we could be here and make this important announcement for Ontarians today. And of course, to our municipal leaders, including the Warden J. Murray Jones couldn't be here, but his vision, along with Eorn's for fiber to the home, has inspired the connection of some 280,000 households in Ontario to this gold standard technology, and we thank him and his team for that work. Janet Clarkson is here today. She's had a pretty intense 24 hours, but that she's made it is a big deal. Deputy Prime Minister, you must appreciate that there are many disappointed folks who were not able to meet you in person today because of the weather, because of COVID. It's a big deal for us here in Peterborough, Kawartha, to welcome Canada's first woman finance minister. The woman who led Canada's COVID response as the chair of COVID committee, the woman whose tireless effort got us a better deal out of the NAFTA negotiations, and of course, the woman who's currently leading all things related to finance, negotiating childcare agreements, and advocating and representing so well working moms across the country. Chrystia, you're an inspiration to many, including myself, and you have made the interesting and sometimes difficult world of politics more bearable, and you've also taught me how to rise above the hardships and see the big picture. I appreciate you and your team for signing off on this historic agreement. I also want to thank every single Canadian who took the time to write to us, to talk to us. The working mom who shared with us that she's just 20 minutes away from Toronto, but she doesn't have high-speed internet, and life during COVID for her was incredibly difficult. She had to juggle online learning for her kids with online work and other care responsibilities. I want to thank the farmers and the producers who wrote to us and said, we are innovating every single day, and with high-speed internet, we're going to be able to continue to lead globally when it comes to food security and food sovereignty. To businesses on main streets in this community and across the country who during COVID had to pivot and then pivot again, who told us without this essential service, they're going to have to close their doors, but we're going to open up opportunities for commerce for them and their employees and create jobs. You took the time to write to us, and municipal leaders representing you advocated so well for you. And because of all that hard work, that Team Canada approach that the Deputy Prime Minister spoke about, we're here today. Some 280,000 households are part of this agreement today, but we didn't begin this work today. Since 2015, our government's efforts have already connected well over 175,000 households in the country to this essential service. And this coming Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, winter solstice, there's going to be 435,000 more households who didn't have the gift of connectivity last Christmas. Next year, by next Christmas, there will be 700,000 more households connected to this essential service. And by 2023, more than 800,000 households will have improved connections. Our goal is to connect as many households as quickly as possible, and we're grateful to every single internet service provider who's brought forward an application. As the Deputy Prime Minister mentioned, the announcement today covers about half of the unconnected households in Ontario. So as we speak, my wonderful team is already working to assess and process the next batch of projects that are going to receive approval so that we can connect more and more communities to this essential service as quickly as possible. And let me take a moment to thank my team. They have worked very hard in their homes, at their kitchen counters. I have seen their little ones running around in the background as they have done this really heavy lift. They have done so in unconditioned rooms. They have done so in really cold rooms. They have done so in noisy rooms. But I know that they have worked around the clock knowing that so many Canadians are counting on us. They have taught this grassroots activist turned politician how to run this program, how to design this program, and I'm so incredibly proud to be your minister and to be standing here today. Here in Peterborough-Kawartha, there will be about 8,700 households who will be connected to high-speed internet because of this agreement with our partners in Ontario and the Infrastructure Bank. That includes Selwyn and Curve Lake First Nation. And in Selwyn, Mayor Mitchell, you'll be pleased to know that more than 10 rural communities will be connected by this Christmas. We can't afford not to make this investment. High-speed internet connections are about improving health and safety for Canadians, particularly women and children who are living in abusive relationships and don't know how to connect to services. These supports are going to be critical on the other side of the pandemic as people will need additional supports for their health, particularly around mental health, and the online delivery of those services is going to be possible because of the innovation in public health as well as these connections that we're making here today. I want to assure every Canadian waiting for that better connection that we've got your back, and we are not going to stop until we ensure every single one of you is connected to this essential service. Merci beaucoup. Sherry, back to you.
Thank you, Ministers Freeland and Monsef. Your announcement will help our rural economic development to grow. At this time, I would like the Honourable Kinga Surma, Minister of Infrastructure for the province, to come to the podium.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Sherry. I am honored to be here today, along with MPP Dave Smith, to deliver some exciting news for communities across Ontario. Before I address the topic at hand, I want to let all of you know how lucky you are to have Dave Smith as your local MPP. Throughout the pandemic, MPP Smith played a critical role in helping small businesses reopen safely. In fact, he played a leadership role in developing a province-wide approach to getting testing kits out the door to local businesses through their local chambers. And in times of crisis, every little bit goes a long way. Today is a great day for small-town Ontario, for rural Ontario, for remote and Indigenous communities, for farmers, and for everyone in unserved and underserved communities who will benefit directly from this news. We are taking a huge step forward in our comprehensive and proactive plan that commits nearly $4 billion to achieve 100% connectivity across the province by the end of 2025. As you all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted just how important access to high-speed internet is for all of us, and that Ontarians need it now more than ever. High-speed internet is an essential service. I am thrilled to stand alongside our federal partners to announce our joint investment of up to $1.2 billion in 58 new high-speed internet projects. These projects will provide high-speed internet access for up to 280,000 homes and businesses across Ontario. This builds on another announcement I made earlier this week, Ontario's investment of up to $14 million for 13 projects, which were submitted under our Improving Connectivity for Ontario program, also known as ICON. These projects will expand access to high-speed internet to 42 communities across Ontario and will bring reliable high-speed internet access to as many as 17,000 homes and businesses. Through these projects and other provincial initiatives already underway, we are helping to bring access to a total of nearly 370,000 homes and businesses. The next step of our plan to provide access to all regions across the province with high-speed internet is Ontario's new innovative procurement process that will help connect remaining underserved and unserved regions in Ontario. This new delivery model that was recently announced will be led by our agency, Infrastructure Ontario, and procurement will begin this summer. Residents can rest assured that every home will be connected. No one will be left behind. In addition, we are helping to speed up construction of high-speed internet projects and reduce barriers to deploy broadband infrastructure through the Supporting Broadband and Infrastructure Expansion Act 2021, which was introduced and passed earlier this year. I want to thank all of the local service providers for working with governments to build this critical infrastructure. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Eastern Ontario Regional Network for bringing near-complete cellular coverage to this region, which our government is proud to support. Specifically, I want to thank J. Murray Jones, the Chair of EORN, Warden of Peterborough County. I also want to recognize the important work being done through the Southwestern Integrated Fiber Technology Project. Everyone who has been involved in these projects has shown tremendous leadership. We are on our way to make sure all communities, including Indigenous, rural, northern access high-speed internet by end of 2025. And although we are continuing to make progress, the job is not done. There's still much more to do. That is why over the coming weeks and months, we will be updating the public on how we are continuing to connect all remaining households to high-speed internet. Our government is working hard to ensure that everyone, no matter where you live, can take part and thrive in our digital world. Thank you for having me today, and now I would like to invite MPP Smith to come to the podium.
Thank you, Minister Surma, for that. Usually as the fourth person to speak, there isn't anyone else left to thank, but there is someone in particular that I'd like to thank. Standing here with my dress shoes, I'm almost 6'4". When you first came in, you would have seen that there was a platform of about 3 inches, and I had a great deal of apoplexy, thinking that I was going to be hitting my head on something or that I wouldn't be able to speak into the microphone. So I'd like to thank the AV staff for removing that step that would have been here because all of your cameras would have had to have been adjusted. This is a great announcement for Ontario because too often governments have left rural Ontario behind, and that is not the case. When you take a step back and look at this, there is almost 775,000 people who will benefit as a result of what we're announcing today. But let me put a different perspective on this. It's 775,000 people, but it represents a landmass the size of Germany, Italy, France, the UK, Luxembourg. Almost the entire of Europe is being represented in broadband access in the province of Ontario alone. This is a massive historical undertaking, the likes of something that has not been seen since rail was brought across this country. This truly is an historic moment. It will take us approximately 4 years to complete this, but it's not just a 4-year project. This is a 4-generation project. We are bringing all of rural Ontario into the 21st century and leading towards the 22nd century. I myself will selfishly take advantage of it. I live in the rural part of this riding, and I do not have stable, high-speed internet. Yet it is a 5-minute drive to Trent University from my house. I can actually see the Trent University campus from my home. And I do not have reliable, high-speed internet. This is going to provide service to areas like North Kawartha, Trent Lakes, Havelock, Belmont, Methuen, and of course Selwyn, where we are right now. The city of Peterborough is well served, but the county of Peterborough historically has not been. And what we have seen throughout COVID, if you're a small business and you're not in e-business, you will be out of business. This levels the playing field for everyone in Ontario in a way that we have not seen previously. Minister Monsef talked about farmers. For those of you who don't know, if you want to have an automatic or automated milking system in your dairy farm, you can reduce the head of your herd by about 30% and produce the same amount of milk. It's a massive reduction in the carbon footprint of our dairy farms. We can lead the world in that, but in order to do it, you must have access to high-speed internet. Think about that. It's not just people that we're going to be helping, it's cows. I know it sounds kind of funny, but it truly is. Happy cows produce more milk, and if they can milk themselves through that automated system, they produce more, they're happier, and we don't need as many of them. So it makes our Canadian, our Ontario-based dairy industry that much more competitive and provides a distinct advantage over other jurisdictions. This is about the 21st century economy. This is about building upon what we already have and making sure that everyone in Ontario, regardless of where your postal code is, you have equal access to e-commerce. You have equal access to connectivity. You have equal access to education and the information superhighway. It's a demonstration of what you can do when you collaborate together. This is a collaboration of not just the provincial and federal governments, but a collaboration with industry as well. And I know that Minister Surma mentioned Laurie Scott from our riding directly beside us. It would be remiss of me if I did not acknowledge the great work that she put in on this file over the last couple of years to get us to where we were. And through that collaboration, Minister Surma was able to pick up the ball and carry it across the finish line. And we are here today as a result of all of the great work that has been done by a whole host of people. And I thank God every day that I get to be part of that fabulous working team. This truly is an historic moment for all of Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Surma and Parliamentary Assistant and our MPP Dave Smith for your remarks and your contribution. I'd now like to introduce the Mayor of Selwyn, the Honourable Andy Mitchell. He and I, through our Economic Development and Business Committee, have been pushing for broadband in our community, and it would be great to see it come to fruition. Andy, will you please come to the podium?
Well, good morning, everybody. And Sherry, thank you very much. I'm very fortunate to have a great partner in governing this community along with the rest of our council, so thank you, Sherry. As mayor, I too would like to welcome our distinguished guests here to Selwyn Township, as we know it to be the center of the universe. As Canada's former and first Minister of Rural Development, I am thrilled to see the vision of enhanced connectivity coming to fruition. It's been a long road, and we're very appreciative to see the governments of today being able to fulfill a vision of governments of yesterday. I would like to thank the federal and provincial governments for this historic investment into broadband infrastructure across Ontario and regionally in our area as well. This investment represents government at its best, working together and with the private sector to empower people, businesses, and communities to achieve their full potential. This isn't simply about building connectivity infrastructure. It's about giving people in rural communities access to services that otherwise would not be available. This includes access to such things as healthcare, education, communication, and entertainment. It allows our businesses to compete not just in Canada, but around the globe. This investment is not only the important thing to do, it's also the right thing to do. Access to basic services should be part of being Canadian, not a function of where you choose to live. Rural Canada is a special place with unique traditions and a rich cultural heritage. It is home to resource and other industries that help drive the Canadian economy. Without a strong network of communities that support this economic activity, and which today's investments will help to thrive, not only would rural Canada be disadvantaged, all Canadians would be. The investment today will allow rural Canada and rural Canadians to continue to contribute to enhancing Canada's quality of life and improving our standard of living. I also want to thank the ministers, all of them, particularly for the investments that are being made here in our community, both in terms of the infrastructure, and I'm sorry, Deputy Prime Minister, I still use the old term gas tax, and the enhanced gas tax, which is helping municipalities across Ontario. We're very, very appreciative of both investments. And so thank you, and it's time that we all get down to work. Thanks.
On my way in this morning, I stopped to get a coffee at our local cafe on the main street in Lakefield. And I mentioned to the owner what was happening today, the event, and she almost started to cry because she said when she's at home, she has no internet. She can't do any work from home. So this is a really big deal for the people who live in Selwyn. And I want to thank all of our speakers for joining us today for this momentous occasion. Many feel dependable internet is a right, and I'm pleased to see our elected officials agree. This concludes the announcement portion of the event, and we invite the speakers for a photo op. Following the photos, Marie-Pierre Burrill, Press Secretary for Minister Monsef, will moderate the media if you have any questions. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much. So everybody had the chance to take a picture. At this time, maybe we will give it a few seconds. 1, 2, 3. Time for group pictures. Thank you very much. So while we take pictures, I will begin in French quickly, and then English will follow. Alors, nous allons maintenant ouvrir pour des questions des médias. Nous allons demander aux médias de poser une question. Nous allons en prendre d'abord par ceux qui sont présents ici dans la pièce, et puis par ceux qui sont sur la ligne après. Alors, pour commencer, si vous avez des questions, vous placez autour de moi. Now for English. So we will now open the floor for questions from the media. We will take questions from the people now here on the floor, and then we will open it up for the people that are with us on the line. If you have a question, I will ask you to come around, sit beside here, stay behind here. Is there any question from reporters here in the room? Before asking your question, we will ask you to ask your question, no follow-up, and please say your name, introduce your media, and if this question is addressed to one person in particular, please mention this person as well. Thank you very much. Take a question. Yeah, first question.
Hi there, it's Brendan Burke from the Peterborough Examiner. It was mentioned that by Christmas, I believe of this year, that 10 rural communities would be connected to high-speed, reliable internet. Can you name which communities those would be?
Thank you very much for your question. Absolutely, we'll follow up with the names of all the communities that are going to be connected. Those 10 communities are here in my riding, but across the country there will be 435,000 households who are going to have access to this essential service this Christmas who wouldn't have otherwise. So there's a lot of work being done to process the next batch, but it's going to be a better Christmas for many this year.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question from the people on the floor. I know it's a little bit tight, but any reporters here with a question? Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Sam Haupt with Global News. Addressed to no one in particular, I just wanted to ask, the term high speed has been relative for quite a long time in the internet world. I was wondering if anyone could just put a number on what the provincial government considers high speed internet.
5010, that is the standard that we want, standard of service that we would like across the province of Ontario. And with staff at MOI and Infrastructure Ontario, that is the standard where you can do things such as learn from home and work from home and access important services.
Thank you.
If I may add to that, that's the baseline. And what we're actually going for with the fiber connections is future-proof technology that can allow for scaling up. For example, our colleagues at EORN have been pushing for 1 gig to the home. We're not stopping at 5010. We're pushing for the kinds of technologies that will enable our communities to keep up with the ever-evolving technologies that are more and more becoming part of our everyday life.
All right, thank you very much. Another reporter. So we now move to the question on the line. Please, the moderator on the line, if you could let us know who is there for a question.
Thank you. Merci. Please press star 1 if you have a question. We have a question from David Reedley from The Logic. Please go ahead. Your line is now open.
Hi, and thank you for making it possible to ask questions from afar. Mine is directed at one of the federal ministers, whoever's better placed to answer. Could you compare and contrast this announcement to the one in March between the federal government and the Quebec government for Operation High Speed? How is this similar and how is it different?
Thank you so much for that question and for joining us remotely. We signed an agreement with the government of Quebec to connect 150,000 households to high-speed internet, and most recently, the Prime Minister and the Premier announced that an additional 50,000+ households in Quebec would be connected. And that was the first agreement we made as part of the Universal Broadband Fund. This agreement with the Government of Ontario follows a similar path. We're connecting 280,000 households to high-speed internet. This one is all fiber to the home, and we'll continue to work with our colleagues in Ontario and service providers, Indigenous leaders, and communities to make sure that we connect the remaining households to this essential service. I will also add that we're working with other provinces to do the same so that every Canadian, no matter where they live, have access to connectivity and are able to compete and thrive in the 21st century.
Thank you. Operator, next person on the line.
Thank you. Mr. Asnibi, can you redo star 1, please, again? Thank you. So, Man Asnibi from the Canadian Press, please go ahead. Your line is now open.
Hey, good morning. My question is for Mr. Freeland. Yesterday, the UK government announced that they would ease the travel restrictions for residents in the US government, and the US and Europe. Well, but many British Canadians, some Britons living in Canada, are concerned that have to stay in quarantine if they want to visit family and do business in the UK. Have you received any explanation from the UK government on why they reduce these British people who live in Canada or Canadians who want to travel to Canada are not exempt from these rules? And are you working with the UK government to include them in this exemption?
Okay, well, thank you very much for the question. I think something that COVID has made very clear to all of us is how important it is for each country to make its own decisions when it comes to its borders. And so as a Canadian minister, I speak for Canada. For our government, when it comes to our own border decisions, the most important thing is the health and safety of Canadians. And the decisions that we're making at the Canadian border are always based on the best advice that our public health officials and scientists can give us. And I think that it's important for all of us to really respect the sovereignty of other countries and their right to make the decisions that they think are best for them. Thanks.
Thank you very much. This is the last question. Operator?
Thank you. Merci. The next question is from Evan Dyer from CBC News. Please go ahead. Your line is now open.
Thank you. This question is for Deputy Prime Minister Freeland. Yesterday, Immigration Canada announced that there would be a 3-day in a package of application forms. Who used to work with Canadian forces in Afghanistan said there would be a 3-day time limit to apply. By the end of the day, that was reversed, but some Canadian soldiers have said that this suggests that there was a bad faith effort on the part of the Government of Canada and that it's looking to limit numbers by placing hurdles in the way of these interpreters. How would you respond to that?
Well, I'm very grateful to you, Evan, for the question, because this is an issue which is very personally close to me. I think it's probably personally close to all Canadians, but maybe especially for people who are journalists or who have worked as journalists. And I will say my husband actually worked as a reporter in Afghanistan, and he became very close to many of the translators and interpreters he worked with. And so there's been a lot of personal concern in my home about this. And speaking as a Minister of the Crown, let me say to all of the people in Afghanistan who worked to support the important work that the Government of Canada was doing there, we are very, very grateful for your work. And we absolutely recognize the responsibility we have towards you and your families. Our view, Evan, is that people who have worked for Canada, who therefore absolutely have the right to come to Canada, should be getting on those planes as quickly as possible. And so our desire is to move very, very quickly with this process. That is what has driven our approach. And I want to be absolutely clear, this is not a question of restricting the right of people who served Canada and may now therefore be in danger. What we are really, really focused on is ensuring that the logistics work and that these brave people have a chance to come to Canada. And I am sure they will make great Canadians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This now concludes the media availability of this event. Thank you to our esteemed guests and all the media present today. We wish you all a wonderful day. Thank you.